Hazrat Ibrahim is one of the most important figures in the Abrahamic faiths, including Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. In Islam, Hazrat Ibrahim is considered one out of the 5 greatest prophets, known as the Aasalam, those of great determination. His life, teachings, and devotion to God serve as an exemplary model for Muslims. Hazrat Ibrahim was born in the city of Ur, which is believed to be in present-day Iraq. His father, Azar, also called Terah in biblical accounts, was an idol maker and worshipped idols. Hazrat Ibrahim, even as a child, rejected the idolatry practiced by his father and the people around him. From a young age, he showed signs of wisdom and devotion to the one God, Allah. The people, however, did not accept his reasoning and, in their anger, decided to punish him. They cast him into a huge fire, but by the command of Allah, the fire did not harm him. This event is one of the miracles associated with Hazrat Ibrahim and demonstrates the power of Allah to protect his chosen servants. As the Quran describes in Surah Al-Anbiya 21 to 6870, they said, "Burn him and support your gods. If you're going to act," we said, "O fire, be coolness and safety upon Ibrahim." They wanted to harm him, but we made them the worst losers. Hazrat Ibrahim was one of the earliest and most prominent advocates of monotheism. He called his people to worship the one true God, Allah, urging them to abandon idols and false deities. His message was clear: there is no deity but Allah, and everything in the universe is under his command. Hazrat Ibrahim was also a key figure in calling people to righteousness, justice, and the worship of Allah alone. Despite facing rejection and opposition, he continued his mission, and Allah granted him great wisdom and patience. Hazrat Ibrahim is central to the concept of the covenant in Islamic tradition. Allah made a covenant with him, promising that he would make Ibrahim the father of many nations, and that his descendants would be blessed. This promise was fulfilled through his sons, Hazrat Ismail and Hazrat Ishaq Isaac. Hazrat Ibrahim is regarded as a friend of Allah Khalilullah, a title given to him in the Quran. His unwavering faith in Allah, his willingness to submit to Allah's will, and his enduring patience in the face of hardship set him apart as one of the greatest prophets. One of the major tests Hazrat Ibrahim faced was having a son after being childless for many years. Despite the difficult circumstances, Ibrahim has made a heartfelt supplication to Allah, asking for a righteous son, which is mentioned in the Quran. And Ibrahim said, "My Lord, grant me a child from the righteous." Quran 37 to 100. Allah responded to his prayer by blessing him with Ismail, and later Ishaq. Hazrat Ibrahim's first wife was Sarah, who is mentioned in the Islamic tradition as a righteous woman. Hazrat Ibrahim also married Hajar, a woman whom he was commanded by Allah to take to a barren desert valley which would later become Mecca. Allah instructed Ibrahim to leave Hajar and her infant son Ismail in the desert. This event is significant in Islamic history as it marks the beginning of the city of Mecca and the development of the sacred sanctuary. When the water they had with them ran out, Hajar searched desperately for water, running 7 times between the hills of Safa and Marwa. Allah responded to her search, causing the Zamzam spring to emerge at the feet of Hazrat Ismail. This well of water has remained a miracle for over 4,000 years and is an important feature of the Hajj pilgrimage. One of the most well-known stories of Hazrat Ibrahim is his willingness to sacrifice his son, Hazrat Ismail, in obedience to a command from Allah. According to the Quran, Hazrat Ibrahim had a dream in which Allah instructed him to sacrifice his son as an act of submission. Hazrat Ibrahim shared the dream with his son, and Hazrat Ismail agreed to obey Allah's will without hesitation. Just as Ibrahim was about to carry out the sacrifice, Allah intervened and sent a ram to be sacrificed in place of Ismail. This event is commemorated by Muslims every year during Eid al-Adha, the festival of sacrifice, an animal in remembrance of Hazrat Ibrahim's devotion to Allah. This story signifies the values of faith, obedience, and trust in Allah, even in the most difficult and challenging circumstances. Another significant event in Hazrat Ibrahim's life was his role in building the Kaaba. In Mecca, along with his son Hazrat Ismail. Allah instructed Hazrat Ibrahim to build the Kaaba as a place of worship for the one true God. The Kaaba is the holiest site in Islam, and Muslims face it during their daily prayers. Salah, it is also the central point of the pilgrimage, hajj, which Muslims are required to undertake at least once in their lifetime, provided they are able. Hazrat Ibrahim was not only a prophet, but also a patriarch. He is regarded as the father of two major branches of the Abrahamic faiths. His son, Hazrat Ismail, is considered the ancestor of the Arab people and the forefather of the Prophet Muhammad (PBUH). The lineage of the Prophet Muhammad (PBUH) is traced back to Hazrat Ibrahim through his son Ismail. His other son, Hazrat Ishaq, is considered the father of the Israelites and the progenitor of many of the prophets of Judaism and Christianity, including Prophet Jacob, Prophet Musa, Moses, and Prophet David. Hazrat Ibrahim underwent many trials throughout his life, including his exile from his homeland after rejecting idol worship, his patience in dealing with the rejection and hostility of his people, his willingness to sacrifice his beloved son, but in obedience to Allah's command, his trials in building the Kaaba, a monumental task in the desert. Each of these trials was a test of his faith and devotion to Allah. His steadfastness in these trials earned him the love and approval of Allah, and he is seen as a model of submission to God's will. The Quran dedicates multiple chapters, surahs, to Hazrat Ibrahim as highlighting his role as a prophet and a faithful servant of Allah. Surah Al-Baqarah 2-124-141, Surah Ibrahim 14:35-41, Surah As-Safat 3-7-8-3-1-1-3, Surah At-Tawbah 9-114. Hazrat Ibrahim is seen as a key figure in promoting the belief in one God, rejecting idol worship, and calling his people to righteousness. His life and actions are central to the Islamic pilgrimage, hajj, as Muslims follow the rituals that honor his legacy, including the sacrifice of an animal and the tawaf, the act of walking around the Kaaba. Hazrat Ibrahim is believed to have lived a long life, and when his time came, he passed away in peace. His death is recorded in Islamic tradition, and he is revered as one of the greatest prophets. In Islam, his grave is said to be in Hebron, Aasalam, in present-day Palestine. Hazrat Ibrahim holds a revered place in Islam as the epitome of faith and submission to Allah. His unwavering commitment to spreading monotheism, his trials and sacrifices, and his status as the patriarch of both the Arab and Israelite peoples make him one of the most significant figures in Islamic history. His legacy continues to inspire Muslims around the world, and his life is a source of guidance for believers seeking to live with integrity, trust in Allah, and dedication to righteousness.